from the initial 3 jobs that you get immediately once you get your Fire Crystal Shards, the Beastmaster is a very unique job in Final Fantasy V, being the ability to capture monsters, use them to basically use them in combat. They all have very different abilities. And of course, there are some notable abilities that the Beastmaster does have, but only one of them gets pretty much really any mileage. But this is technically one pure example as to why this job here is basically used to help with other jobs, as we'll go over shortly. Hi folks, this is RotorStorm331. We're back to doing some more Final Fantasy V job guides for beginners. This is to help mostly people that are getting into Final Fantasy V, either playing the game itself or trying out the 4-job Fiesta. These guides are mostly aimed to help beginners and give you some points. Technically, there's probably people better than me that could probably explain it a little bit more better than me, but this is mostly aimed to help beginners and to help them get their feet wet into this game, pretty much. And then from there, they'll be able to learn more about the games they do it themselves and from others. Anyway, we're going to be covering the Beastmaster first. This was a job that I recently did for the recent 4-job Fiesta that I did. And needless to say, it's not very good unless you have either Blue Mage or Time Mage. And that's because this job actually supplements both of those jobs, because you need Time Magic to basically capture monsters through their gravity spells, and Blue Mage really needs Beastmaster's abilities, and particularly the Control ability, which allows you to force monsters to use blue magic they wouldn't normally use in their scripted AI or other means. But technically, the whole goal of the Beastmaster is to basically use the ability to capture monsters and unleash them in combat. Sometimes they'll use generic attacks, and then there's some in the game that give you some pretty powerful abilities to use against enemies. The downside, though, is I don't really know full use of the Beastmaster because I never really bothered to capture any of the monsters. Now, there is an accessory you get in World 2 that's called the Kumaro Gourd, which basically allows you to improve your odds of capturing monsters by half of their HP instead of whittling down to either 1/4 or 1/8 of their current HP. And that really helps if you're into really capturing monsters. But anyway, to go over the modifiers of a Beastmaster, Beastmasters have a modifier strength of 13 plus 13, plus 1 on agility, plus 8 on stamina, and minus 3 on magic. So basically, it's a pretty decent attacker. It's also got pretty good stamina. Not very fast, though. It's not very bad on having low end of the magic. So if you do decide to put spells on it, it could cover up that minus 3 pretty nicely. But technically, in terms of attacking, the Beastmaster is just not very good in comparison with a lot of the warrior-based jobs that you do get. Because even monks, knights, berserkers, dragoons, samurais, mystic knights, and even ninjas and rangers can pretty much out-edge Beastmaster pretty well in terms of attacking. Beastmasters are the only job outside the freelancer that gets access to whips. So basically, one of the benefits about wielding a whip is that they get to attack full damage when they're in back row. So if you put them in back row to attack them with a whip, they'll hit the enemy and deal full damage regardless of what row you put them on. Of course, whips do have the ability to inflict paralysis on targets, as soon as they're not immune. But there's not a whole lot of whips to make full use of in the entire game. Probably your best option is Fire Lash, which is one of the 12 sealed weapons that you do get during the final part of World 3. Of course, the Dragon's Whisker requires you to hunt down Stingray and either get that as a rare drop. I forgot it's a rare drop or steal, but if anyone does know, please comment in the comments if they do. So anyway, that covers the modifiers, so let's go over the abilities that you get as a Beastmaster. The first ability that you get at level 1 is Calm. Now, unfortunately, Calm is not really useful. For the most part, it's used to basically do like Flirt does with Dancer, and that's basically to prevent an enemy from taking action. It only works against magical beast-type monsters, so it won't work against any of the other monsters. And unfortunately, this ability, from what I read online, it is declared to be glitched, so it's not a very reliable ability, and it's not really worth using unless you're dealing with a magical beast. Which, given the fact we're dealing with a large amount of heavy type enemies, bosses, and whatnot, it's not really a good ability. Control is probably the worthwhile ability that you get as Beastmaster, and this is the second ability that you get once you hit level 2 as a Beastmaster. Basically, it allows you to take control of a monster, and when it's successfully applied, once that party member that's controlling the monster gets their turn again, they'll get an option of the monster's attacks they can use. One of the real reasons why you want to use control is because that helps you get access to blue magic abilities that enemies will not use on your party. This is, of course, important because White Wind and Mighty Guard, which are two of the best blue magic spells in the entire game, require you to use control. You can also get level 3 Flare through this method, pretty much, and a few others. So if you're having problems getting monsters to cast blue magic that they have, taking control of them really helps. There is a helmet in this game called the Hypno Crown, which will improve your odds of taking control of the monster. Just keep in mind that some monsters cannot be controlled. The third ability that you get upon level 3 with Beastmaster is Equipped Whips. So aside from getting the plus 13 Beastmaster strength, that party member will get the ability to equip whips, so they can attack from back row and inflict paralysis as soon as the target is not immune to paralysis. Of course, there's better weapon options as opposed to whips, given the fact that whips don't really have a whole large weapon pool to rely on for the most part. The fourth ability that you learn at level 4 and the final ability you get as Beastmaster is Catch. Catch is the signature ability of Beastmaster, and basically once you whittle down your opponent's health down to near critical levels, or a certain degree, you will be able to capture that monster. So once it's caught, you'll be able to release that monster on a future battle, and that monster will use an ability. It's only done once, and once that monster's released, you lose that said monster. So if you want to capture the same monster or different monsters, you'll be able to do so again once you release the monster. Now, there's a ton of monsters in this entire game that have some pretty busted abilities. Of course, most of them will be generic, but there's some notable ones that you can get. Sandbear from Shifting Sands is very infamous for having access to Bear Claw, and you can get that in World 1 and 3. And a lot of people tend to use that for the most part. There are some notable monsters that can do have some pretty busted abilities if you're lucky enough to capture them. Of course, this is where the Karamo Grodd comes into play, where you can capture these monsters for half of their health. This is where the Time Mage magic comes into play with our gravity spells and helping you capture these beasts. So if you're interested in learning how to capture monsters, I recommend going online to find any available list for it, because I won't be able to go through it in this guide. It's going to take up too much time for the most part for me, but it's probably best to look to other sources for if you want to be interested in the Beastmaster job to use for those abilities. Now, Beastmaster doesn't really sync very well with a large amount of the jobs, but then again, Time Mage magic can be very useful for Beastmaster if you're interested in capturing, especially with the aforementioned gravity spells. Of course, control can be very useful for the blue mage in general, because they can take control of them and force them to use any blue magic they won't use normally. Now, of course, unless you love whips, Quick Whips doesn't really have much use. There aren't a whole lot of whips to make full use of for the most part. And of course, if you're into capturing monsters, Catch is definitely something you want to consider, but it's very hard to decide as to what job would really work well with Catch. Now, given the fact that I've just pretty much mentioned what can be used with the Beastmaster, it is very hard for me to think of anything else would work with putting other abilities with Beastmaster. But of course, if you want them to deal more damage, it's probably best to give it abilities that would, from other jobs, that would increase their attack strength, like the monk or ninja, or heck, even samurai, dragoon, knight, and berserker with their other weapons. If you want them to be a frontline fighter, it's just really difficult to really think of any abilities that would work. If you're concerned about the Beastmaster's survivability, given the fact they only get +8, given the Bard's Hide would be very good ideal for the most part. It'll let them, it'll protect them. Or if you want them to use utility, giving them access to Chemist's Mix would be very good. Now, of course, if you're interested in back row, giving the Beastmaster access to the Ranger's equipped bows would be a lot more better option, but bows are a little bit less accurate than the whips. Of course, if you do have your character master of some of the ninja's abilities, giving them access to image and throw are probably some good options to give to your Beastmaster. Of course, the Samurai Zanangi is not a bad option either. Of course, since they have the ability to use knives, Mystic Knight's Spellblade also plays pretty nicely if you want to enchant your knives. That's also another good pick to utilize. And that's pretty much it for the Beastmaster. Of course, there's probably other abilities, but Beastmaster tends to be one of these jobs that functions more better when you combine it with Blue Mage or Time Mage for the most part. But other than that, this is pretty much more into capturing monsters than anything else. So anyway, I'm going to take a small break, and once I get back, we'll go over the thief job next. So hang tight, I will return shortly.